Lakey, welcome back to the Way Champions podcast.
Thank you. I'm so stoked to be back. It's been many years, so it's good to be back with you guys.
We were,
Yes.
Jerry looked it up and I think he said it was 2020 or 2019, something like that.
September 3rd, 2020.
There we go.
Wow.
Boy,
So
that's a lifetime.
Lots has
a lot happened in
happened.
the
Yeah.
world since then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Wowzer.
Yeah. Well, we caught you. We've been trying to organize this for a while, and 2025 since January. You said you've only slept a few nights in your own bed as you've been on World Surf Tour. How has the season gone for you this year?
Yeah, it's been good. I have not been home, as you mentioned. We kicked things off. It would be at the end of January over in Hawaii, but you kind of usually for the first event of the year, you get there nice and early and get practicing and get everything dialed in. So yeah, I went over there kind of the first week of January, and then we just have had 7 events basically in a row since then, back to back all over the world. So I'm happy to be home. We just got back from Australia. We had a few events over there, which is always fun. And yeah, back here in California now. And the next contest is actually here in California at Trestles, down in San Clemente in
Mm.
about a week. So looking forward to having an event kind of back home and have friends and family down here. So it's been good. A busy year, but a good year.
Home game is always nice. That's for sure. I think
Yeah.
about like all that's entailed in the tour, and I think anyone who spends lots of nights on airplanes and in hotels and stuff like that realizes just how disruptive that can be. And then I think you add in the uncertainty of something like surfing where it's like you get a window for a contest, right? And like it might be this day or it might be this day or it might be this day. And so just your whole preparation, you're eating, you're sleeping. It's not like you're a soccer player and you know you're playing on Saturday no matter what, right?
Yeah. It's a great point you bring up because I think obviously, like being a professional surfer, I live the dream for sure. I get to go beautiful places and I get to go surfing for a living. So it is the dream. But there's a lot that people don't see, and I think people don't understand about it that is really tricky. And you definitely mentioned a few things there, like just the constant travel and moving around. And it's, a lot of professional sports people travel for their games and stuff like that. But I think what makes ours so unique is that it's all over the globe, which is cool, but it's, you're on a 15-hour flight every other week easily. And, we're not up in business class either. So it definitely takes its toll,
Mm.
on your body and physically it's challenging. But then yeah, surfing is also so unique in the sense that we have these kind of 2 week waiting periods to run our events, but our events only take 3 or 4 days to actually do the whole thing. But the point of that is to get the best surf in that time frame. And that's what
Mm.
can be really challenging because there's, some days you're on hold, they're waiting for it to get better. So you might be surfing. So you kind of got to like stay ready and then they call it off. And okay, the day's actually off. And then you go again tomorrow, or you'll surf the beginning of the event and then you have like four lay days because the waves go bad. And you got to kind of turn off, but kind of stay on through that period and then be ready to go again at the end of the waiting period. So I think that is something super unique to surfing, and it's definitely a dance. And I think, as you compete more and more in surfing, you get better at kind of switching on and switching off and really enjoying like where you are the whole time you're there. But geez, for someone like me who's like type A, like to know when I'm surfing what I'm doing, I would have been a great tennis player in that sense, just knowing this is my core time, this is what I'm, doing. But that is also kind of the beauty of surfing and what makes it so unique, but can be challenging for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend, his son just qualified for the World Freeride Tour and skiing, but big
Yeah.
mountain skiing. And this spring he was going through the final qualifiers and like his last event, he had to um he had to finish like top three to make it, right? To make the world tour. And the event was supposed to be in like Canada, and then it rained and it got moved to Tahoe, and so they had to like get in a car and
Wow.
drive 14 hours and then
Oh,
ski the next day,
yeah.
and he's got everything on the line, like his dream of making this
Yeah.
tour, and he made it, which is awesome. But it's like, I
Yeah.
was just like, and then yeah, you're just showing up at a mountain you've never seen before, and you haven't skied the snow, and now you got to figure it out in the last second. And there's not too many sports like you have and he has for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's super similar in a different way, but same sort of thing. It can drive you crazy sometimes for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, we got reconnected here because of your film Making Waves. And so, talk about that and how that's gone and maybe what's behind this with Firestone Walker and 805 beer.
Yeah, we where do I start? So we filmed most of it last year actually. I had some time off kind of from midway point of last year. I actually had like the rest of the season off and it gave me time to focus on this film that 805 Beer and Firestone Walker really wanted to do. And I always was like, I just don't know where or when I'm going to be able to fit that in. But I was gifted this time last year to actually go on some trips, some surf trips to film for it. And, at least just start brainstorming what we sort of wanted it to be and how we wanted it to kind of come to life and come out. And it ended up being really cool. It's without ruining it for the people watching. Hopefully they go watch after they hear this, but it's kind of just the story of my competitive career and the ups and downs that come with that and the heartbreak that comes with competing or just striving towards anything in life, but also the joys that come along with it. And, I've been surfing professionally for a long time now and been through a lot of great moments and a lot of challenging moments competitively and personally. And I just felt like it was a unique opportunity to share my story, that everyone's going through things at some point or another. It's not always the glitz and glam that everyone sees. And I think that's true with everybody's life. Everyone's gone through hard things that you might not even see. You might just see their good moments. So I don't know. It was a cool way to kind of share my story and the ups and downs of everything to where I am today. And I think it came out, really cool. And I was able to make the film with Morgan Mawson, who actually grew up around the corner from me in Santa Barbara, which was pretty cool to just have that connection there. And then we had someone else come in and help with like the editing portion of it. But yeah, it was cool to kind of have those Santa Barbara roots, along with obviously 805 being from our area. And
Mhm.
I think it came out great. I was really happy with it.
Well, I've watched it twice, and I know Jerry's watched it. And before you jumped on here, we were talking about it because I rewatched it just getting ready for this, and it's a really really cool film. And I actually sent it to there's a kid I used to coach in soccer who is about to probably be a first round Major League Baseball draft pick who happens to be a big Lakey Peterson fan because he grew up in Southern Cal and whatever. And
Awesome.
and so I was texting with him last night and just saying that you were going to be on the podcast today and everything. He's like, "Oh my God, I just want to be a competitor like her." And so I think it comes across in
Yeah,
the film,
that's
that
cool.
it's like it's not, for his life in baseball, you don't get a hit every at bat. It's working through
Yeah.
the hard times, and I mean, you had some really hard stretches.
For sure. I think too, geez, I've obviously had some great moments as you do as an athlete. And what makes the good moments like so great is all the other hard times that you had to go through to get there. And I feel like so many times I've been at a point where I'm like, I might just be done. Like, I don't know. Like, you feel like giving up so many times, but then when you keep pushing through it and finally something goes your way or you win an event or whatever, you get that moment, whatever that looks like, it feels so good because you've just didn't give up and you kept charging through, the challenges that make you have so much self-doubt and you doubt the process and you doubt kind of everything. It's so easy for your mind to go so negative, even if you are probably doing everything right, it will just challenge your mental capacity to just stay in it and believe in yourself and your processing your team and all of it. So, yeah, I think it's what makes winning feel so sweet, though, is if you don't go through those challenging times, that's what makes it all worth it at the end of the day, because you just
Yeah.
know how hard it was to get there.
Yeah. Jerry,
Well,
I know I wanted to bring you in because just Jerry, I know you've worked with so many athletes, even individuals, right? PGA golfers, like you're playing against the golf course, and server Jerry. So jump in here because I
well,
know you
yeah,
made a comment there.
anyway, it's good to be with you again, Lakey. It's been a long time, and
Yeah.
what the people don't realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you went, I think it's 8 years without a victory on the tour.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was
Long
that
stretch.
is a getting back to the golf thing. Most of the golfers that I work with, yeah, they have a couple of off years in a row, but 8 years, OMG, right? And then of course you had a couple of things that brought you back, and but I want to talk about those 8 years. So without giving too much away with the film, which was excellent, by the way. And I love the fact that you did it in black and white.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
very dramatic. But you were in there in the gym exercising on the bike, and
Yep.
over your right shoulder, there were a list of virtues, values on the wall. You know what I'm talking about, right? And
Yes, I
so,
did. Yeah.
so what I always, when I see those on the wall, if it's a game with a ball, I always say, well, how do you go from the wall to the ball?
Mhm.
And it's nice to say those things, and I'll get to that in a minute. But my question would be, of course, how do you go from the wall to the water? And
Yeah.
and you had words there that I think are emblematic of your career as I have followed it. And two of those words, perspective, well, perspective was one. Uh, then you had perseverance and
Hmm.
you had persistence. So the three P words. Eight
Yeah.
years of not winning. How the heck in this world, and help me out with this because I don't think I would be able to do that. How did you keep your perspective? How did you keep persevering? How did you keep persisting? Do you do you have any
Uh,
suggestion for us?
you could have done it. You definitely could have done it too. It's a good question. I'm sure at times, I know at times I doubted it all or definitely wanted to, you know, give up or throw in the towel. But I think maybe the biggest word of all those is well, all three are super important, but the perspective and the perseverance, because I always thought like at the end of the day, I'm getting to go surfing for my job and I'm meeting all these amazing people. And as frustrating as it can be to just lose and fail and lose and fail and lose and fail and try and try and try and just feel like, nope, that way didn't work, that way didn't work, whatever. And maybe you get a little breakthrough. I'm sure in that time I had made, finals or semis. Like I'd had obviously some good moments, just not the win, which is what we're all after. And I think just honestly, for me, it was just about having a really great team of people around me. And I was lucky enough to have like just a great coach during that time. I had met my now husband, boyfriend at that time through those years as well. And I think like just having people in your corner, you know, it's not a team sport
Sure.
surfing. So it can
Yeah.
also can be lonely. You don't have like a teammate there to, motivate you or build you back up or, kind of play off each other's emotions a little bit. And I think having those just few people in your circle that are also there though to pick you up every time and they believe in you, sometimes when I don't maybe didn't even believe in myself, but they believed in me. That's like what for me would keep me going is like, hey, they believe in me and they're going to show up for me. Like, I'm going to keep trying and I'm going to keep going, even when I maybe didn't feel that,
Yeah.
for a lot of those times or a lot of those years, even though there was great moments in those years. But yeah, when I finally broke through and won again after all those years, that was one of the sweetest wins I've ever had for sure. I just felt like
What
so much weight was lifted off my
what
shoulders.
clicked? I mean, you went right up, you shot right up to number one in the world. I think it was 2018, if I
Yeah.
recall. And
Yeah.
boy, you just shot right up to number one in the world after 8 years of am I correct in the history of
Yeah.
that? Yeah. So
Yeah. I
what
believe
the
so.
heck clicked for you? What was it? Can you identify that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think this might sound so obvious, but I remember the start before the 2018 season, which was my really great turnaround season, and I ended up winning the first event of that season, and then just kind of went on a roll from there. Um, I instead of staying home for the whole off season, I actually flew to Australia and spent like a month and a half in Australia. And I think there's a few things that, what clicked for me. Obviously, one of them is I had worked the last 8 years like learning and trying and growing and, gaining a lot from losing. You can learn a lot from losing or just not achieving your goals. So I think I had built up all this knowledge from obviously just experience at that point, which there's no substitute for. But then, yeah, before that season, I just went for a month and a half to Australia and I just had this super intense kind of training camp. I worked on my boards. I had like very specific goals, which again might sound obvious, like, why weren't you doing that sooner? But I feel like I just made it where I had these goals every surf I went for, but it was also fun. Didn't feel tedious or I don't know, like I was just not achieving anything. It felt achievable and fun and I don't know, the program I guess I put together for myself just worked. And I remember showing up to Snapper Rocks, which was the first event of that season over in Australia. And like immediately I had so many people like, wow, you've improved so much in this off season. Like, what did you do different? And I feel like it was just about working way smarter and refining my whole program preseason. And just kind of putting my head down. And it gave me the space too to like go somewhere else. I wasn't home. I didn't have much distraction. Like I could just focus and do what I needed to do. And I
Yeah.
really feel like just I don't know, help get me
Yeah.
to a place where I could win a lot.
What's interesting is you're now saying that home was a distraction, and a little while ago, home was wonderful to get there and
Yeah.
to be embraced. But so home could be this like amazing place to be, but it also could be a very much of a deterrent for progress.
I think very much. It's funny, even right now, I'm home and I'm so happy I'm home. But I am so busy, like the most busy I've been all year with whether it's just friends and family or like sponsorship obligations, which is great that I have those even and have people who support me. But I think when you're home, there is a different level of like having to get other styles of work done that we don't
Yeah,
really get to do when we're on the road.
yeah.
So it can be a distraction when you are home for sure. Like sometimes you got to get out of here and just go on a surf trip or go somewhere with that intention
Mhm.
and really be able to focus on it. Because when you're home, I feel like you have a lot of different people and energy,
Mm.
just pulling you in different directions.
So you called it correctly when you went to Australia, then that's what I'm hearing. You got away from all
Yeah,
of this stuff and you start to really get in touch with yourself and the meaning and the purpose and all of that, which is a good message for other people to hear. And that's why I bring it up. I think we all sometimes lose our connection. I'll do that with writing, and I need to get away and I need to be distracted and I need to put my energy into something else. And sometimes it's really good to shut down. And sometimes that's longer than we imagine, but sometimes it's quicker than we thought. But the
yeah,
message you're giving us is an important one, I believe, Lakey, which is you got to manage. You got to manage yourself first, and when you manage yourself, the everything else falls into place, which is probably what you've experienced.
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
John?
Lakey, let me just really touch on a point that you made there that I think is really critical for the people who are listening, especially athletes. Um, Had a guest on the podcast, guy named Simon Hartley, who's a psychologist from the UK, and he worked with a ton of Olympians over there. And I asked him, I said, what were the differences with these young, he worked with swimmers and track athletes and whatever coming up, the ones who made it to the Olympics or medaled versus the ones who fell short. And he was really quick with his answer, and he said, um, "Own your development." They own their development, and what
Mm,
he meant by that, he said, so
yeah.
for example, I would go to the pool deck. and it would be before practice, and two swimmers would walk out, and I'd be like, "Hey, how you doing today? What are you going to work on?" And swimmer A is like, "Yeah, not sure, just going to go out there and whatever." And then he's like, swimmer B would be like, "I'm going to work on my turns today, like really focused on my turns and that part of it." And then 2 hours later, they'd walk off the deck, and he'd be like, "Hey, swimmer A had practice. Go." Yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't bad. And swimmer B would like, "Oh, man, I nailed that turn, but then I missed this one or whatever." And he said, when you compile that really specific, this is what I'm going to do today. This is how I will define success in this practice session. He goes, that's the person who made it, who got a little bit better, who owned it. And I would have to think something like, especially with surfing, where you can go out and surf or you can go out to work on this. And that sounds like that was kind of over those years, you owned it, that I'm going to get better at this and this, and then those things aggregate over time. Am I missing that, or was that really, does that make sense to you?
That makes so much sense. It's a great point that you make. And it definitely felt like, yeah, I just had intention and purpose every time I'd surf. And it also made it sometimes I would go out and surf and the intention was just be free, have fun, fall,
Mhm.
try, whatever. And that was the intention for that surf. Like, and then other times it's this very specific thing. And I think when you're competing at a high level or at any level for that matter, usually it's like the game of inches, it's the little one percenters really that will probably make the difference at the end of the day. So that attention to detail, like the swimmer, for example, like the flip turn, that might be the exact little difference that he's gaining or she's gaining, that 1%, rather than just going out and doing your set and whatever, swim your 2000 and you're done. And I think that's honestly a really great point. And sometimes, as athletes, like it's hard to be that focused every time you go practice too. You really, it's not always super fun. It can be really frustrating if you're trying something new and maybe you feel like you're not getting it right away. You feel like, oh, I just can't figure this out. And that can be a lot of energy and be really hard. But I do believe if you're going out and you're practicing with whatever you do with intention, and it can just be that one thing at a time, it doesn't need to be 10 different things. Usually it is better from my experience if it's just one thing and then the next day it's another thing or whatever. Um, I do think that's where, yeah, the most progress is made. And certainly in my preseason before the 2018 year, I think I clicked into that really well and dialed into that really well. And even still today, it's like I have a lot of maybe weeks where I maybe am surfing without too much intention or thought, and I'll notice it and I'll be like, okay, to get ready for this event, what am I doing every day? What are we working on? Where's my direction here? And you can make that fun. It doesn't need to be some tedious thing. It can be a fun experience. But I think what you said is really profound. I think really, really is true.
It's a wonderful reminder, and I mean, when I listen to him, I'm like, no wonder my good buddy keeps beating me in golf, because every time we go to the golf range, he's like, I'm working on this, and I'm just hitting balls, and I'm like, that's why he's getting better, and I'm not getting better, and it's made me like
Yeah.
refocus on, okay, today I'm going to work on this thing,
Yeah.
and so I think it's just such an important thing, and I think your point as well, that an intention for a day or a week can be joy. Like that, I'm just going to go out and remember what it was like to be the 5-year-old who got on a surfboard for the first time and do it. And we had this guy in another guest, Steve Magnus. I want to read something, Jerry, if you're okay with me jumping into this, because it
Oh,
was
absolutely.
um, he wrote a book called Win the Inner Game, and he was talking about these components of it, and he told a story of this top marathoner. Her name was Sarah Hall, um, uh, but and so she's a record holder, and she said, what I just when she really got good, she said, I stopped going after a goal of a time, and I started the goal wasn't a time but a feeling, and I wanted to feel like I was flying along, stride fluid, flanked by amazing women, loving finally getting a great day. And she said, sometimes you have to reframe your goal because I never want to have a goal that's stealing my peace, ripping me out of the present, and keeping me from loving the people in my life well. And that shift combined with, okay,
Yeah.
yes, specific training, but then I'm training so I can feel like I'm flying across the waves. I'm feeling light on my whatever it feels for you. That's the key
Yeah.
that, hey, if I feel my best, some days I might win. Some days I might not get the wave. But does that resonate with you as well?
Absolutely. That's an awesome quote. I think that resonates with me so much, but that's something did not learn until later in my career a little bit. It took some experience, you know. I think when you're young and depending on your personality, you can just try and can muscle things so much or just, control the situation. And sometimes that isn't what it's about. It's about just like letting it happen as it will and exuding joy through your craft, through standing up on a wave and riding it. And you get this whole blank canvas and you can ride it however you want. And I think thinking about it more in that way and wanting to do it in a way that is a great expression of of myself and how I want to show how I can surf rather than, geez, I hope I get two excellent scores this heat and I hope I win this contest. Because if your happiness or your peace or joy is based off of how you do competitively, it will never lead you to like that true inner peace and joy is what I've learned. Like your true happiness, for me at least, is in the process and the journey and the people. And of course, winning is great and that is awesome and fun, but it is not what like fulfills you at the end of the day. Maybe that's a better word for it. What fulfills you is those great rides that you get or the moment you had where you felt free on the wave and was able to express, how you really feel you can surf or the good moment with your friend or my husband or whatever, on the journey. And those are like what is so much more fulfilling. And so if you can compete in a way where you are enjoying those things and the purpose is how to enjoy those things and how to surf free and showcase, what you really think you can do, and that's the goal, then your outcome internally is usually way better because you're way happier and more fulfilled. And also usually I notice when I'm able to do that or focus on those things more is when I probably do my best surfing or get my best results naturally, not always, of course, that's just sport, but in general, that's when good things happen competitively.
All right, Jerry,
Yeah.
jump in, but I was just going to say, I don't see a microphone in front of you, but if you had one, you should drop it right now and just, that's it.
No,
Here's my water
you teed me
bottle.
up
Just
well
Yeah,
for
drop
that.
it.
mic drop moment. Thank you for that. Jerry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I don't know what I'm going to say now. I mean, that was it right there. I mean, what can I say? Uh, Two things. Number one is I just want to make this point. Over the years, and there have been many, 45 plus years, I won't say plus what, uh, I must have come across, I want to say 1,000 national or world champion athletes like yourself. And
Mhm.
so the first point is that is the number one characteristic that they possess is intention. And it's also the number one characteristic that the other 99.9% of the people don't think about. And
Right.
and so even in my daily life, at this age, at this many years into my career and all the work that I do, people say, "Well, how do you do it?" It all comes down to one word, intention. I intend it to happen, and then I follow the steps, and that's what you're bringing out. And I just didn't want that to go by the wayside. It was extremely important point. The other thing
Yeah.
is, I want to quote you if that's okay. And it's a good quote. It's not dirty or bad or anything. It's a helpful
That's
quote.
good.
Uh, well, I'll say these words and see if this resonates. Everything in life works out the way it should if you allow it to work itself out and just trust it and enjoy every moment. Being present every moment is the best part of life. First comment I want to make is when did you become a Buddhist? I mean,
Far from, but I'm trying. I'm
yeah.
trying. That's
Well,
easier said than done.
that is right out of the the Buddha book, so to speak. It's just, I mean, that's a lesson that many people your age don't have, and a lot of friends and people that I know will probably never get in their lifetime. And it really fits so well because you can have the intention, but the outcomes and results are not going to be there. And then we measure our
Mhm.
self-worth as a competitive world-class athlete, in your case, a surfer,
Yeah.
and we get blown out of the water. No pun intended. And we feel less than, and we feel this and we feel that. But what you're saying here, my gosh, you don't need to say another thing. This is a book in itself. Everything works out not the way we think it should, but the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And so all of those 8 years, there was a reason for that 8 years, is what I'm trying to point out. There had to be a
Yeah.
reason, and you discovered that reason, and you got back on track. But the biggest thing was you persevered and you persisted and you had perspective. That comes back to the wall into the water.
Mhm.
And so uh, I just wanted to take that opportunity to share your words, and very, very impressive. You know, you've got a Buddha book in you. So it's, yeah.
It is, I will say thank you very much. It's certainly easier said than done, to do that and
Oh,
live
yeah.
like that. But, as we all know too well,
Yeah.
but that's the goal. And I think the more you go through life, and, I've been through a lot in life, and everyone goes through a lot in life, whether it's personally or professionally or both. And I think, the more you go through things, you grow through things. And um, that is the goal, though, to be in the present moment. And I always think if I'm stressed out, like I had a really big event last week and I had to do well. And um, I did do well, but leading into the event, I was super nervous, like, the most nervous and stressed I've been about a result in a long time. And I tried the day before to just look back at my whole life and my whole career and all the times I've won and lost and good and bad, and think like, okay, it's all worked out, and that moment that was hard or that was bad or that was good, but I'm fine today through all those things that have happened, and I'm right where I want to be, and I'm good. And so whatever happens, you're gonna be fine, and it's
Yeah.
gonna go how it's gonna go. All you can do is show up and try your best,
Yeah.
and hopefully be present. But it can be challenging, when you're wanting something so bad in that moment, but it's definitely the goal.
Absolutely. And at that moment, you sort of like in your back pocket, you had that quote, and you
Hmm.
said it to yourself. And those
Yeah.
words actually helped you in the moment get through something what maybe 5, 10 years ago, uh, you would have got caught up in the whole drama
Yeah.
of the outcomes and so forth. But anyway, yeah, wonderful. John?
Yeah, maybe shifting gears a little bit because we've talked a lot about this, and I think it's awesome. The movie also touches on uh, fear and sort of this idea. And we talked about this last time you were on the podcast a little bit, but I think maybe since then or whatever, they added pipeline and they added Chopo, these huge, big, scary waves, high consequence waves to the tour. And it's not familiar water, it's not your home break and all that sort of stuff. And so talk about maybe if we can explore for a while the role of stress and fear and anxiety and I don't know. I think often of like I saw this professional skier once, film, who did like TGR films or something, and the quote was, "If I'm not scared, it's not making the film." Right? And so I think about that, like to win a contest, you gotta, you gotta surf a scary wave. You gotta drop in on something maybe. So maybe can we explore that
Yeah.
for a bit? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. That's a good question. This is something that's always been really hard for me in my career, is dealing with fear. And my sport, like a lot of, I guess, action sports, there is some real honest fear involved sometimes, especially when you're going to waves of consequence like a pipeline or a chopu. Um, it's scary and stuff can happen, and it's really hard to be competitive and compete when you are also sometimes really afraid. And sometimes the competitiveness kind of helps because you're like, okay, you put the jersey on and you're like, okay, if I'm going to go for it, this is the time to go for it. So sometimes it can kind of help when you get in an event to like be more brave than a free surf, I guess.
Hmm.
Because you just feel like if I'm doing it, this is when I'm doing it. But certainly for me, big waves were always pretty scary for me. And growing up in California, I grew up surfing like head high, fun little right hand point breaks with sand bottom. It's not too scary. I didn't grow up in like a Hawaii or something where it's reef and wind and big and, just the elements a lot more. And so when they added pipe and chopu to the women's schedule, which I'll just say too is so cool that it is on our schedule now, and the girls and the women were more than capable, and we're doing it like every year, getting better. It's really cool to see, and it's really cool to see the younger generation now too, like just fully stepping it up in that area. It's awesome. So, um, for me though, I'm 13 years in. I'm not a couple years into this, so it's been a fun challenge, fun, also scary and hard. It's been a challenge uh, to be pushed so much by this young generation who are just fearless and doing it, like showing us what's possible, plus, what is to come, and competing with them and feeling like, okay, I'm gonna have to push myself into this really uncomfortable zone that I honestly like don't want to, but to keep up with them or stay ahead of them or just see what also I am capable of doing for me at the end of the day. It's pretty easy to be out there and compare yourself when one of the girls gets a really good wave or a big wave that maybe you feel like, oh, I don't know if I would have taken that. But I think looking at it more, or I've tried to look at it more like, okay, how can I improve or be like a little bit braver every single surf, every single session this month at Pipe when I'm practicing, like how can I just slowly step my way up? But for me, it's an improvement every time where it's pushing it, even if it doesn't look as crazy as, the other girls wave. So I think just staying in my own lane with it. But it's hard. It's scary. It's still something that's hard for me, It's like you have to be really brave and willing to go out there and do it. And sometimes you don't want to like genuinely, sometimes it's really, really scary, um, but it's been fun to push myself in that way and see, how far on the razor's edge can you push it, calculated risk and see what you can do. Cause I've certainly had also some of my best rides in recent years because I've been pushed to do it and go there. And if I wasn't pushed to go there, I probably wouldn't have gotten those waves or made myself do it. And I did it. So I don't know if that made sense, but that's sort of
Oh,
my mentality on
Totally,
no,
it.
it does,
totally
and
makes
I think we
sense.
can explore the fear more. But just that last point you made, Jerry and I talk a lot on this podcast about the idea of competition and the word compete. And Jerry's Latin is better than mine, but competare or what
Compatiere.
compatiere, right? Which means to strive with, right? We've turned competition into a war where only one person wins, but the true nature of competition is I strive with my opponent and together we make each other better. And I'm curious because we've had skiers on here. We've had, we just had a American, World Cup downhill skier on who talks about in speed skiing, there's just this massive um camaraderie of the way you attack that mountain. Like they celebrate each other and you were faster
Yeah.
than me and you won the race, but just the way you did that is awesome. And there's this friendship and so even
Yeah.
within competition, so you talk about, hey, how these younger surfers have pushed you out of your comfort zone. It does that exist in your sport as well when someone does something and progress the sport as the first aerialist 10 years ago
Hmm.
or maybe more than that now, right? Like you progressed your sport and other people had to keep up. Well, now they're progressing you. And so is there that mutual celebration and camaraderie of together we're taking a sport to a place it's never been before?
There fully is, and it's really cool. It's actually it is awesome. There was an event last year at Chopu. I actually wasn't in the contest. This is when I was actually filming for the movie, but it was big, and all my friends, the girls on tour, they're doing it, and the girls were charging. Like it was solid and scary, and you could easily get hurt that day. And it was so cool to see like everyone just celebrating each other's waves. And even in the lineup, free surfs if it's big or whatever, if one of the girls gets a crazy one, like all of us are so stoked for her because it's awesome just for women surfing more than anything. It's the girls are doing it, and if you can't build each other up in those moments, then what are we doing here? We all know how hard each other work and how scary it is for everybody. And so there's definitely kind of that camaraderie when one of my peers or all of us, get a good wave at pipe or chopes or any of those style of waves, it's very much celebrated by everyone. Even if you're in the same heat as them, it's like even if you lose to them but they get an amazing wave, you're pretty stoked, for them and just for women surfing in general, which is it's really cool actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think that's what's gone missing in so many sports. I think that's why kids will gravitate towards surfing or skateboarding or snowboarding or these things where it's not just about your win is my loss, and it's about this camaraderie of, you know, how you see the mountain or how you see the wave, or like you said, the fact that, hey, one of your competitors just got a better wave on the day. Like you don't control that. And so, you can get angry at something that's completely out of your control, or you can celebrate the fact that, that's an excellence mindset, right? If I'm all about success, then I hope ill will on everyone else, and I hope they get crappy waves and don't surf well. But if I'm in an excellence mindset, then when someone does something that hasn't been done before, then I'm just like, yes, this is what it's
Yeah,
all about.
totally.
Yeah.
For sure. That's the
Yeah.
only way I think to look at it. You have to celebrate those times for your sport, in general. And I think all of us just know how hard it is. Like we're all out there just as scared as the girl next to us. So when you see someone do it, it's like we just know how challenging it is to get to that point and to push yourself to that point to achieve that it just is like, oh my gosh, like I would want someone to celebrate that if it was me, or the times I've done it and they've celebrated me or whatever. It's just a mutual respect between everyone. And yeah, if you can't celebrate those moments for your peers, then I think maybe relook at kind of, I don't know, just where your values are and what you're doing, because excellence is excellence no matter what. And you got to be able to see that when it happens.
Mm-hmm. Um, Jerry, can we I didn't actually write down questions about this, but I was thinking about this as I was rewatching the film this morning. Your coach Mike, can you talk about your relationship with him and that sort of like what what makes for you an excellent coach? What are the qualities of someone who can really coach you?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I worked with Mike
Hmm.
Parsons for probably, like 9 or 10 years of my career. And I'm still very close with Mike. I don't work with him anymore.
Hmm.
He just doesn't do as much coaching anymore. He's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
home a bit with his son and wanting to do that, which is awesome. And now I work with this other coach. He's a Brazilian guy, Leandro Dora. And it's been really cool to kind of actually experience something new and fresh also, just after so many years of being with Mike, and just get a different perspective and a different style of coaching. And
Mhm.
um, I guess through my years of, working with Mike and now working with Alejandro and a few others here and there, just briefly, I think what makes a good coach is someone who can hold you accountable and really tell you what you need to hear at the right time. I think a lot of people I see, athletes or just people around them, and all they get told is what they want to hear, like the positive stuff, which is good. You gotta, be told good job when give credit where credit's due. But I think a lot of people or coaches sometimes are too afraid to address. Maybe this is more of an athlete thing, just unwilling to hear, but what wasn't good enough or needs to be worked on, or if they need to be called out about something. And I think between Mike and Alejandro, it's like that needs to be done when the time is right, also because you want to keep the confidence high and obviously not cause any tension. But I think when a coach cares and wants the best for the athlete, like they're going to truly tell them what they believe they need to work on, or where they maybe misstepped, and also when they've done an incredible job and where they're tracking really, really well. um, and I also think the other thing with a coach is one that has perspective, and the sport isn't everything, and they can kind of share that knowledge with the athlete, especially when it's a younger athlete. And I just know for myself, when I was a lot younger, it's like you just think your sport is everything, and you live in and die and on every heat and every result. And I think having someone as a figure, as a coach, that is there to push you and help you win, and wants you to win. And when you win, they win, and when you lose, they lose. So they're feeling it too. But also at the end of the day, can have perspective of like, you're gonna be fine. Life's great. Look at all that we have, and just, yeah, just perspective and maturity. I think that's really important for a lot of athletes. And I see a lot of like parents and coaches, and it's just all about the result. And I don't know. I'm thankful that that hasn't been the case for me. And I've had coaches in my life who, man, they want me to win, and they are working just as hard as I am, and want the best for me, but also can have perspective with me and help me realize that life is, it's going to be great, whether you win the event or you never win another heat. And so I think those are probably the two biggest things for coaches.
Love it. Jerry, jump in here. Jerry just wrote a whole book on another coaching book.
Yeah.
So I know he's got,
Oh, awesome.
you can see the smoke coming out of his ears here. He's ready to go.
Lead with
Enlighten
Love is
us.
the title. Lead with Love.
I like that.
Yeah, I want to shift gears here for a minute. I'm really intrigued by this whole conversation, and but I also want to get this in as well. I see you as a an amazing proponent. Well, let me preface it by saying I live in Santa Cruz, California.
Hmm.
For whatever that means. We have the lane 3/4 of a mile from my house. I could hear the waves right now if I open the windows. There's a lot of young girls here who want
Yeah.
to who want to surf, and they admire
Hmm.
you. And I'm gonna turn them on. Between my wife and I, who's a physician in town, we're gonna sell this film because they really need to see this, what you're saying, what your message is. So my point is, once they see that, they're gonna say, well, yeah, it's easy. It's easy for Lakey. She's strong, she's talented, she's beautiful. Uh, I can't do that. Uh, what can you say to those kids? And help me to say things to kids uh, in terms of inspiring them or empowering them or just encouraging them to take it on, regardless of how they look or how strong they feel or whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh, geez. It's I think I would just say that I started out, I mean, in the same position as probably they did. Maybe some people, they have different life experiences or got one more surfboard than the other person or this or that, but I just believe that if you really like want something in life, and maybe you won't be world champion, maybe you will. Who knows? You can't put any limitation on yourself, but it's not about like thinking, oh, that's easy for Lakey, because it was not easy for me. And everybody has a story, and
Good to
everyone's
know.
going through something. Everyone's going through something that you
Hmm.
know nothing about or you have never seen, even though it looks perfect and easy, but they're battling something. And so I think it's more not comparing or thinking, oh, well, they did it, but they had all the tools to do it. It's more like, okay, this is what I want to achieve. how can I do it? And like, what can I do to become the best surfer that I can be, whether that's winning your local surf contest or becoming world champion or whatever that looks like for you, or just being the best free surfer you can be. Like, whatever it is, it's you got to just look internally and think, okay, well, how can I be my best and become my best? And what are my goals? It's not Lakey's goals. And yeah, she maybe did do it, and you can learn from those people or bits or bobs and have that inspiration. I think that's amazing. I look up to so many people in my career and in life, but it's about you, and it's about you putting in the work and you making the steps to get there, and you kind of creating that path for yourself. Nobody else can do that for you, and um, yeah, you got to
Yeah,
do
that's
it. And
good.
everyone's fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, that's
think
great.
that's
I think the message you're giving us all is important, and that is it is hard work. You need some support along the way. You need to have encouragement from other people and not try to always find it within yourself, which is really hard to do sometimes. But I think that work
yeah,
factor, if I always believe, I'm not the brightest light on the block, but boy, you can't outwork me, you know? There's no one that will outwork me. And I think that message that you're giving them is something that's more tangible for them. And it takes their
yeah,
mind away from this strong, beautiful professional athlete. The fact that you did put the hard work in and you did have, I hear you saying between the lines that you did have challenges that were very difficult and
yeah.
challenging which really, and that you overcame them with the hard work. So it's a great message for these youngsters to hear for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't beat hard work. Not they need to be grinding it out all the time, but what's that quote? It's like hard work beats talent every day of the week when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah,
You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't work hard, the
that's
hard
right.
workers probably be
Yeah,
better. It's
yep,
you have
yeah,
to put in the work, and only you know what you're putting in. So
yeah,
Yeah.
for
And I
sure.
mean, I think about like the other thing that this film really touches on. It's not a film about look at all the highlights of my life. It's, you go in depth about, your disappointment in not qualifying for the Olympics, right? And
mhm.
and just how hard that was on you. And it's funny because you just talked 20 minutes ago about your last event finishing third, which was a great finish and
Mhm.
felt awesome. And then that year you finished third and the top two were Americans, and so you didn't go to the Olympics. So you had a hard,
Yeah.
so it's not about third place. It's about everything
No.
that's around it, and that's goes back to the perspective and everything. And I think it comes across really clearly that first and foremost, you just love surfing, and
Yeah.
if they stop paying you and sponsoring you tomorrow, which I hope they don't do, you'd still go out and surf. Like,
Yep.
and that's what the
Yes, I
kids
will.
need to do when they fall in love with the win or the outcome and don't fall in love with the sport. That's when trouble
Yeah.
eventually happens. But,
Mm.
if you realize that I just love surfing and the terms and conditions that I signed up for is I'm going to lose sometimes because everyone else is really good too.
Yeah.
Now you're on that journey. And that I think you pass along really, really well. And sometimes the 8-year-old or the 10-year-old or the 12-year-old doesn't listen to that. But that's what
Yeah.
we work really hard to get their parents to listen to that message.
Totally. I couldn't agree more with you. It's that is so spot on and so true. And yeah, I think the focus should never be the outcome, but more just the journey, and or not, or never be the trophy, I should say, more just you becoming your best and enjoying every step of the way, and
Mm,
expressing yourself how you
yeah.
want to in that moment. So yeah,
Amen.
that's an important one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Liggy, tell people how they can connect with you, follow you, Instagram or wherever your favorite platforms are, and then maybe one more shout out to the movie and where they can find that. And we'll put all the links in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Obviously my Instagram, it's just my name, Lakey Peterson, Lakey. That's how you spell my first name. I also have a YouTube channel. We do a lot of vlogs of my travels and competitiveness and all that. So that's a bit fun. So that's just my name also, Lakey. I think it's underscore Peterson. So check that out. But yeah, in the movie Making Waves with 805 Beer, we definitely worked pretty hard on it. You can find it just on YouTube. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, go check it out. It was a pleasure to make, and hopefully it inspires people to just get out there and enjoy life, enjoy the journey, enjoy the process of it all. So
Hmm. Hey,
Great
man. Well,
statement. Yep,
yeah. Well,
amen.
yeah.
thank you so much. Jerry and I always sign off our podcast with this idea that your influence is never neutral, and the more you're aware of it, the more powerful it is. And I think you're aware of your influence, and that's why you give back so much to surfing and your community and everything. And hopefully, we can help get that message out here to a few more people because it's certainly well worth following.
Thank you guys. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for your
Indeed.
knowledge. It was really great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Lakey.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry, that was awesome. That was really enjoyable.
Yeah, what I like most, John, is last time we saw her was we mentioned on the podcast is 2020. And unless I'm reading into it, it's great to see 5 years go by and all the wisdom that she's accrued through all the setbacks and failures and she just seems so much more mature, so much more with it. And not that she wasn't then, but you could see the growth. 5 years is a chunk of time where someone's either going to demonstrate that or just, not, and she certainly did, which, her answers were so indicative of that wisdom.
Yeah. No, I agree, and it's fun to I was just thinking as we were talking to her how enjoyable it is to speak to amazing athletes like her years apart as they gain perspective on the journey, as they get older, as they go from the rookie to the to the senior player,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who is responsible for the culture of the locker room or how things go, and
Yeah.
especially in action sports where the sport
Yeah.
is progressing so fast
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you
Well,
just have
it's
to claw for everything.
yeah, it's amazing. This surf world, of course, I'm right down the block from one of the biggest surfing contest spots in the world called Steamer's Lane.
Mhm.
And she's been up here surfing, and all the great surfers come here. And we got Mavericks up the road in the other direction. And, so I get to see this. But what I don't see is people talking like she's talking.
Yeah.
And the message that was very powerful for me is the enormous amount of work that she has to put in to be at that level.
Hmm.
Most people go down the lane and look at the surfers and think, yeah, it's just real cool. Surf's up, man.
Hmm.
We'll do this, do that. It's low key. It's, have a beer, blah, blah, blah. This is hard work. I mean, they go to the gym, they work out, they're running, they get endurance. There's tremendous, as you pointed out, a tremendous amount of disappointment and challenges trying to deal. The water doesn't always cooperate. The snow is always there, but the water changes like a lot and you can go 3 or 4 days without any surf, and that's like getting a runner to the starting line of a major race, a marathon, and saying, "Well, we can't start today. We'll start on Friday, 4 days later," and you're all prepared to go now. And
Right.
so, yeah, she
Or
brought out
maybe
that
we'll start in 4 days, or maybe we'll
maybe,
start tomorrow, or maybe we'll start in 4 hours. We'll let you know
yeah,
as soon
yeah,
as we
we'll
know.
we'll call you in about an hour and let you know where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah, but anyway, it was
anyone who's been part of a rain delayed game, or there's
yeah,
an overtime game before your game
yeah,
and you get delayed
yeah,
30, how much that throws you off. Well,
yeah,
the ability to stay
yeah,
focused,
focused, yeah.
prepared over a week or two,
Hmm.
right, is
Hmm.
it's super impressive.
And deal with all those emotions that come up and go down and go out and go sideways and go upstairs and downstairs and all of that. I
Yeah.
can't imagine how they can ultimately do that. Well, of course, it impacts their their performance as well. So
Yeah. My last piece is just, as you were talking about intentionality and I was talking about
yeah,
that own your development, for those
right.
not watching on YouTube, she's just nodding her head like you could see her be like, "Yes, that's it right
That's
there."
that's
Right?
right.
That and I don't know that she had I think she knew that, but maybe hadn't thought of that in those terms or whatever. But like it really resonated with her that that's how you get better is set an intention every day. And that intention can be, I'm just going to go out and have a great day of surfing and have fun with my friends.
That's
It's a
right. It does.
perfectly good
Right.
intention.
Right. It does. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to work my butt off today, and that's my intention every single freaking day. It's like, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to have a drink and a burrito and catch a few good waves and enjoy the evening, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And then,
So,
but then if I am going out to practice,
hmm.
what am I practicing?
Yeah.
And how am I going to judge whether I got better today or
Yeah.
not? And how am
Yeah.
I going to learn from this? And
Yeah.
that's a really, really key thing that I think every coach can take away from here. And I think anyone with athletes can listen to, send that, 25
Yeah.
minute film on Lakey's journey because
Yeah.
that's the journey. I don't care what sport you play, right?
Yeah.
There's ups,
Yeah.
there's downs, there's good, there's bad, there's
Hmm.
disappointments, there's
Hmm.
heartbreak, there's tears, and there's
Hmm.
joy.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's all of that, which is makes sport the wonderful microcosmic classroom for all of life that we talk about all the time. And really, what you and I are teaching and what we're encouraging people to look at is how sport can be that teacher for you. And ultimately, when she retires, whenever that is, we don't know,
Mhm.
but when she does retire, that she'll take all those lessons and apply them to her life, just like you and I have. And great message.
Yeah,
Great
awesome.
message.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you all for listening again at Lakey Peterson or at Lakey_Peterson, I think on YouTube, she said. And all those are in the show notes. The YouTube link to the movie Making Waves is in the show notes. Check it out. It's really well done, really enjoyable. Thanks to Sprocket Sports. Thanks to our Patreon podcast champions. Thank you to all you coaches who this summer have ordered books for your entire teams and everything like that, and are using the Champion Teammate or the Champion Sports Parent to make the culture of your program better. Because your influence, it's not neutral, right, Jerry? It's
Where did I hear that before? I
I
don't
don't
know
know,
if
maybe last week, maybe last
maybe
week.
last week, but
Yeah,
it rings in my heart every day.
every day. Keep using that influence for good, everyone. We'll see you again next week.